who are the most important players in college football this year? Maybe even most important position units in college football this year. And I just spun the globe. It landed on Baton Rouge to start. The LSU running back room. Some of you noticed the other day I didn't have LSU playing in the SEC championship game. Now, some people thought that was because I hate LSU, which is, of course, insane. Other people saw it and thought he must have questions about LSU. I do. Not massive. Question doesn't mean weakness. Question means question. And one of them is, for all the talk about how we're going to commit to the run game, for all the talk coming out of spring about how they felt good about the offensive line, I'm not so sure that's maintained itself in the fall camp, but for all that, people feel good about stuff every August that still falls flat in the season. So I don't know that that's going to be the case with LSU, but that's why I'm leading with the LSU tailback room, like Caden Durham. He is RB1 on a team that was 107th in rush yards per game last year. So I look at Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback there, and I think in order for him to do what people want him to do, in order for him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, best quarterbacks in the country, be in the Heisman race, it actually goes well above and beyond him. They got to be more balanced on offense. And they know that. That's not breaking news, but that makes that position group one of the most important in the country, because without that, LSU's not a contender. Without that, LSU's a 3+ loss team, I think, again this year. If they do have it, then LSU's proven people like me wrong, mildly at least, come December. I'm right here at Penn State. I watched Penn State practice today. You got to go with the Penn State wide receiver room here before you get too deep in the conversation, because, again, we watched this team go to the semifinals last year. I'm going to ask James Franklin about it later in the show. This isn't some place where they had to, as Meemaw would say, torch the barn, kill the rats, start all over. It's just fractions of degrees. It's inches here and there. Well, one of the things they did is, of course, they attacked the transfer portal, and they brought in 3 names that you'll hear a lot this fall. I wonder, in impact games, you're playing Oregon here. It's a dogfight. It's 20-17. They're leading you somehow. Whiteout conditions in the fourth quarter. You need a drive. You need a sustained drive where Drew Allar's got to make some throws on third down. Does he have guys that can go up and catch contested balls? Those 50-50 balls hadn't really been 50-50 balls around here. The math really hasn't worked out. I was kind of encouraged by what I watched today, but it's got to happen in a game. If they have that, it's not like Penn State's missing a lot. So if they have that, and you're looking for him to get over the hump in 1 or 2 moments, that could be what causes that. Think about what that does to the Big Ten championship picture. Think about what it does to a lot of the cannots out there. There are people who believe Penn State cannot do this or that. Well, a lot of that you believe because they've lacked that explosivity in the offense, specifically in the passing game. But if they have that, cannot may not be in the vernacular anymore. It rhymed a little bit more than it should have. What about the Auburn quarterback position? Someone asked Hugh Freeze, hey, do you have a plan on playing 3 quarterbacks? Like, could you see that? He said, yeah, we could see that. I don't think Auburn's going to play 3 quarterbacks against Baylor, barring injury, but I do wonder, what are they seeing when practice is closed to the media down there? I think it's been a lot of inconsistency from Jackson Arnold. I thought when he came in there from Oklahoma, task A on the sheet of things to do was to rewire him. You didn't just start from day one, okay, he's here from Oklahoma, throw a new jersey on him, and we'll start building him into what we need him to be this year. There was a lot of sort of unpackaging before you got it down to the studs, and then you started to rebuild. And it's hard to do that in the span of a spring and then summer workouts and fall camp. So just ask scenario A, B here with Jackson Arnold, because a lot of you hadn't paid attention to Auburn. You don't expect much from Auburn. Auburn is not your typical team with an over-under win total just north of bowl eligibility. Auburn's a team with the top 15 roster in the country that turned the ball over a ton last year and went and got a quarterback out of the portal, and the quarterback wasn't good last year that they got, so no one knows what to expect. But what if they're good? Like, what if Hugh Freeze and his marrying his offense with Jackson Arnold was just what the doctor ordered there? All of a sudden, the talking point would be, whoa, the rest of this Auburn team's pretty good. You shouldn't be surprised by that. If Jackson Arnold's good this year, or if he continues to elevate his game, like let's say they get in a rock fight against Baylor and they win 19-17, but they win, and then they play Oklahoma a couple of weeks later, and come what may, but they keep on elevating, you're going to look around and you may be surprised to say, whoa, he's got some ballers to throw the ball to. wow, that line of scrimmage play, that's pretty good. That looks like vintage Auburn there. They've got those guys. Don't be surprised by that. But the thing about it with Auburn is the same thing it was about with Oklahoma last year. Oklahoma had some of those players too. It didn't matter because the offense was dead on arrival. And if Auburn doesn't get any better play out of Jackson Arnold than what Oklahoma got last year, obviously everything I just said is a moot point. Hey, wait just a second. I appreciate you guys watching. Most of you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so. It's free. It helps us keep the show free, and that's how we do college football year-round. All right, back to the video. I think if you stay in the SEC and you go right up the road to Georgia, I said this the other day, I will stand by it, I think Georgia's offensive line is the most important unit in the entire country. The reason I say that is because Georgia is a mainstay in the national championship conversation. In order for you to figure out how the championship picture is going to shake out, you either figure out whether Georgia's going to win it, or if they're not, what happens with them. But you got to, it's like Bama under Saban, like you got to filter them out of that picture before you ever start talking about anyone else. That's the level of respect you have to have for them. Well, last year you filtered them out, or Notre Dame filtered them out pretty emphatically. Number one, because of quarterback injury, but number two, because Notre Dame owned the line of scrimmage in the Sugar Bowl. Not supposed to happen to a Kirby Smart team. So they have one player starting on that offensive line, Ernest Green, I believe, who has more than 5 starts under his belt. Yet I want to tell you they feel pretty confident down there. And I will just ask you to memory hold this now. They didn't attack the portal along the offensive line when they could have. They could have at least made an effort to. And they really sort of stood firm with their players. They stood firm with their development. And they think it's going to pay off. Now, if they're right, and that ground game's back, which it wasn't last year, that's when Gunnar Stockton can get comfortable. That's when there's balance to the offense. That's where that wide receiver room, which should low-key be one of the strongest in the SEC, if not the country, can shine. If you've got that. If you don't have that, that goes out the window. You put Gunnar Stockton in kind of an unfair position. And it's probably still a good year. Like, there's a high floor for Georgia, but it's probably about like last year. You're watching it. Like, they're winning games, but ultimately, I don't think this team has championship ceiling, championship potential about it. But Georgia, if they do have good offensive line play, Georgia's going to be a really tough out. Because I said the other day, and I'm going to say this again in case you weren't watching the show, like, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee Georgia will win this year. I don't have them playing in Atlanta again. It was, a coin flip. I sent Bama and Texas to Atlanta, but I will tell you readily, if Georgia's offensive line play is well above and beyond that of last year, I'm probably going to be wrong about Georgia. Either that or Bama and or Texas or someone else has to have a bona fide, like, stud-laden team or get really lucky with turnovers or injuries or whatnot. What about Ohio State's defensive line? Famously, they won the national title last year, lost all 4 of their starters. I think it decides how good their defense is. You ask me how I feel about the next levels. Linebacker, I feel good about. DB, I feel good about. Defensive line, there's a funny thing that happens in college football. Every time you have to replace a bunch of starters, like Tyler Warren at Penn State, for instance, you have a legendary player. He moves on, and everyone says, oh, you'll never replace Tyler Warren. Well, yeah, I get why you say that. Just like, yeah, I get why you would say, oh, you got 4 departing defensive linemen at Ohio State. It's going to be tough to replace them. Well, why did they start there? Why are you making such a big deal about them? The answer is because they were good players. Just like Tyler Warren here at tight end was a good player. The thing about having good players, think Brock Bowers at Georgia a couple of years ago, is you have no clue how good their backups are. Their backups, theoretically, could be the next best players in the country at their position, and you don't know because they happen to be behind the best or one of the best. So with Ohio State, a lot of big former names out of the recruiting world have just been waiting their turn there. You've watched Saban and Bama do this for years. You've watched Kirby and Georgia do this for years. We've watched Ohio State do this for years. So I'm not just blindly like betting against Ohio State simply because they have to replace starters. It's replacing basically a unit, immunity. It's replacing an entire unit, and it's asking them to come out of the gate hot against Texas. And then, be able to handle even like Illinois, teams like that. Penn State coming in there. I just watched Penn State's offensive line play today. I mean, that's That's not one that's easy to go up against. I know that you have had success against them as a team, but Ohio State's kind of like Georgia. They're either going to be in the championship picture, or one of the first things we got to do is figure out how they get filtered out. And the way they would get filtered out is they get put on skates in the fourth quarter by 2 or 3 of the most physical teams they play, because that's what it's going to come down to them. Frankly, there are a lot of teams it doesn't matter with Ohio State. They're just that talented. So I would say LSU running back, Penn State wide receiver, Auburn quarterback, Georgia offensive line, Ohio State defensive line. You tell me how those are going to turn out. What about Miami's defensive backfield? What's that going to look like? I'll tell you, it looked terrible last year. And I talked to some folks at Miami a couple of nights ago, and they were emphatic. They said, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. Like, I'm not trying to create unreasonable expectations. This position group should be a strength for us this year. There's hardly any holdover. You replace the defensive coordinator in Corey Heatherman, so he's there now. But also, that entire secondary rotational unit's full of new guys. And the one guy, O.J. Frederick, I believe, who's still there, was like one of the lone bright spots in that room last year. He may be one of their best players, but that position group, think about what I just said. As Meemaw would say, they couldn't stop molasses in December through the air last year. If DB it's just a net neutral, much less a strength for Miami this year, and it's harder to move the ball on them. You know what that means? That means Carson Beck doesn't have to get compared to Cam Ward, because Carson Beck doesn't have to score 38 or 42 a game like Cam Ward knew he had to. Then you think about the offensive line they should trot out there. Probably the best in the conference, one of the best in America. Ground game should be really good. Like, there are a lot of facets of that team that should be playoff caliber. You're probably thinking in the back of your head, like mine, is it going to matter, though? I mean, if they can't play high enough level defense, like, eventually they'll get bitten. That's what happened to them last year. And if that's the case again, that'll be the case again. But that DB room, if it is a strength, or if it is just vastly improved from last year, it's a game changer in the ACC. I mean, that's the difference in them sitting at home again and then being in Charlotte with a playoff spot already locked up. Also, staying in that state of Florida, the Florida linebacker room, I'm just excited about Florida's defensive personnel in general, but I'm really excited about that linebacker room because they're really, really talented. They're unproven. They're young, they're unproven. They're just a unit that I think is going to get after it, but it's totally fair to listen to me and say, you don't know that. I know I don't. That's why I said I think. But if we're right about that, I do not think there's a lot of weakness on Florida's team. I just don't. There may be some unknowns, but I don't think there's a lot of weakness. And if linebacker's not one either, like Graham and Howard and Gums, several pieces there that I think they're a little green in experience, but potential sky high. You watch that week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Florida's got some big games to start the season. You watch that group, and I think elsewhere, if that one falls into place, I feel good about them across the board virtually. Healthy DJ Lagway, withstanding.